Do you feel like you're losing everything? People are leaving, plans are failing, doors are closing. Perhaps this isn't misfortune. Perhaps this is a rite of passage. Every soul must empty itself before it can blossom. Carl Jung wrote, "Rebirth can only occur after a symbolic death." This death is not physical, it is emotional. It's the end of illusion, the collapse of the old identity, the shattering of childish expectations you still carried with you. So, if everything in your life is falling apart right now, stop resisting. You are being taught so that something new can emerge within you. You feel pain, confusion, exhaustion. This is a sign that something deep inside you is rearranging itself. Chaos is the signature of a beginning, and what comes after will be the most authentic part of your story. It's easy to panic when everything disintegrates. But what many don't realize is that the structures that fall first were the weakest. The relationship that ended, the friendship that faded, the job that rejected you. Perhaps none of these things ever truly supported you. They were pillars of sand, and now life is calling on you to build with stone. You are not losing your life. You are losing what was too small for the next version of yourself. And yes, this process hurts because the ego clings on. It doesn't want to let go. It wants to preserve what is familiar, even if it makes you unhappy. But the soul does not negotiate. When the moment of transformation arrives, it tears, breaks, and takes away, leaving you facing an emptiness. It is here that you are given the chance to be reborn. What collapses only shows what was never stable to begin with. This pain you're feeling now is not a punishment. It is a purification. It is the removal of the superfluous. It is the breakdown of illusion. You have called for change, for growth, for authenticity. So, you must understand this. The first step of any transformation is destructive, because who you are today must pass away so that who you can become may be born. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is exactly what is happening now. You are being forced to see, to feel, to confront, and in the midst of this darkness lies your light, waiting for you to stop clinging to what no longer belongs to you. You always thought you needed a plan, that security comes from control, from predictability, from clear goals, and then everything slips through your fingers. What was certain vanishes. What seemed stable begins to shake. What appeared eternal dissolves. You panic because the mind screams for solutions, but the soul desires surrender. What you fight persists, and what you're fighting now is the collapse of control. Yet, what you don't yet realize is that this collapse is liberation. It is the beginning of a life no longer led by the ego, but by the truth of your essence. And this essence needs no control. It only needs space. The mind screams, "It shouldn't be this way." But the soul whispers, "It had to happen exactly like this." As long as you try to hold on to what is crumbling, you exhaust yourself. But when you let go, something happens. You suddenly feel a strange calm, a kind of inner silence. Not because everything is resolved, but because, for the first time, you have stopped fighting the inevitable. This is the turning point, not when everything gets better, but when you stop clinging to the old out of fear of the new. Trust begins right here, and with it, a new kind of strength emerges. A strength that doesn't scream, that doesn't demand, that simply flows because it has recognized that the best chapter of your life begins when you let go of the old script. Do you feel misunderstood? Do you sense that everything inside you has changed, but the world around you feels foreign, flat, out of sync, as if it has become too small for what wants to be born within you? Perhaps that is exactly it. Because before you can live the next chapter of your life, you must say goodbye to the old versions of yourself. And that can only happen in stillness. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. And awakening requires retreat. Not necessarily a physical one, but an emotional, energetic, symbolic one. The soul needs space to reorder itself. The external noise, the old ties, the familiar voices are often distractions, not support. That is why life separates you. It takes you out of the crowd and places you in front of yourself, in the center of your own emptiness. It is in this very place of silence that you begin to truly hear yourself. You remember who you were before you tried to please, before you made yourself small, before you felt the constant need to explain yourself. In this solitude, you rediscover what truly gives you meaning. Not what gets likes, not what earns applause, but what makes you shine from within, even when no one is watching. So, do not run from this moment. Do not try to fill it with distractions or with people who no longer fit you. This solitude is a chamber of healing, a space where old wounds mend and a new consciousness arises. Only then does life send you the new, because now you are ready to receive it. No one wants to feel pain. It arrives without warning, without permission, without pity. And immediately, you want to flee. You distract yourself. You withdraw. You carry on without looking back. But something remains, a wound that doesn't heal, a feeling that returns, an emptiness that cannot be filled. This happens because pain is not here to punish you. It is here to teach you. Carl Jung saw no enemy in suffering. For him, it was the fertile ground upon which transformation grows. Psychic pain is the birth of a new consciousness, he said, and this could be exactly what is happening to you now. This feeling of loss, of grief, of ending, is the space opening up for a more authentic version of yourself. But before this version can be born, the old one must pass away, and every death, even a symbolic one, hurts. The question you must ask yourself now is not, how can I escape this pain? But rather, what is this pain trying to show me? Perhaps it is showing you that you have betrayed yourself for years, that you have accepted less than you deserve, that you have stayed silent to be accepted, that you have lived to please instead of to fulfill yourself. And now your body, your soul, your entire life is screaming, enough. Do not be afraid of this process. This pain is not destruction. It is liberation. It loosens the chains. It removes what is false. It shows you where deceit, attachment, and fear still reside. And when all that is gone, what remains is truth. What remains is strength. What remains is who you truly are, free from the illusion that you had to suffer to be loved. free to live the best chapter of your life, the one that only begins after the pain has done its work. There is a mysterious phase in every process of renewal. You begin to change, but you can't explain it yet. You don't have the words, the clarity, but you feel it. You feel that something inside you has broken and something more truthful is beginning to form. Anger transforms into clarity. Attachment dissolves into freedom, and the need to be understood finds peace in silence. You have not yet arrived at the new, but you no longer belong to the old. It is a space between worlds, and it is here that you need patience, because others may not understand you. They treat you as if you were still the same, expecting the same answers, the same reactions. But you have changed, and deep down, you know there is no going back. Carl Jung wrote, "The greatest burden a man can carry is the crime of not being himself." And it is precisely this burden that you are now letting go of, slowly, without noise, without announcement. What used to be an effort becomes a decision. You stop justifying yourself. You stop trying to convince. You stop forcing relationships because you realize your worth does not depend on the approval of others, but on your connection to yourself. This phase is quiet and powerful. Here, you learn to trust yourself again, to listen to your intuition, to make decisions based not on external expectations, but on what you feel is right. Here, you silently begin to write the first paragraph of the best chapter of your life. And when this new you is ready, the world will feel it. But until then, may your silence protect and guide you. Rebirth doesn't happen with fireworks. The soul doesn't scream. It whispers. The new begins as a quiet thought, a small choice, a silent resolve not to repeat old mistakes. And right there, in those details, you suddenly realize, I am not the same person. You wake up with more clarity, react more calmly, feel less of a need to prove yourself. You observe more and explain less. You say no with more conviction, and bit by bit, the world around you changes. Not because it has changed, but because you are now seeing it from a different perspective. This is spiritual maturity, when transformation is no longer a wish, but your new nature. True change happens when you reconcile with your shadow, and that is exactly what you are doing now. You have stopped running from your feelings, stopped numbing yourself. You have looked at your fears, acknowledged your wounds, accepted your contradictions, and in doing so, you have begun to discover your true power. The power of someone who no longer needs to appear strong because they finally allow themselves to feel whole. Life isn't perfect yet, and it never will be, but something within you is different. There is more presence, more alignment, a deep sense that, despite everything, you are exactly where you are meant to be. And this quiet peace is the sign that the best chapter of your life has already begun. This time, not in search of applause, but in honor of your truth. When you begin to change, the world invites you to go back. Old situations reappear. Past patterns present themselves as something new. People who hurt you return with smiles and promises. This isn't because the universe is against you, but because life wants to know, are you truly ready for the new, or will you repeat the old out of fear of being alone? This phase requires courage, because It's easier to return to the familiar than to endure the unknown. But you know now that every time you accept less than you deserve, something inside you fades. And you haven't come this far only to abandon yourself again. You are here to remain whole, even if it means disappointing those who expected the old version of you. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And this awakening is not comfortable. It forces you to be honest with yourself. It demands decisions that are not popular. It requires a yes to what truly aligns with your new consciousness and a no to much of what was once familiar. Don't be afraid of seeming strange or distant or different. You are simply becoming someone who no longer bends, who no longer adapts just to belong, who no longer explains themselves to be loved. You are choosing yourself, and this will disturb those who benefited from your self-betrayal. But it will also attract what is real, because only when you stop playing a role can your authentic self be found. You spend your life waiting for a sign, a grand event, an epic moment that changes everything. But the truth is simpler and more demanding. Rebirth doesn't happen in a single moment. It is created every day, silently, in the choices that no one sees. It's when you decide not to react to a provocation, when you say no to something you know will hurt you, when you choose the truth, even when it's painful, when you stop chasing after others and start nourishing yourself from within. That is when the new begins, not on the outside, but inside you. There is no awakening of consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But you are no longer running. You are taking responsibility. You are looking closely. You are making choices, not the easiest ones, but the most authentic ones. And this choice, made again and again, begins to change your frequency. You attract new people, new ideas, new opportunities, simply because you have changed yourself. Don't expect the best chapter to appear before you, fully written. It begins now, in the silence of your small decisions, in the determination with which you hold your new identity, and above all, in the way you treat yourself, with respect, with honesty, with presence. For whoever honors themselves opens the door to a life that also honors that truth. You have walked through chaos, through pain, through loneliness. You have confronted yourself. You have fallen. You have been silent. You have waited. And now there is something different in the air. It's not yet big. It's not yet easy. But it is real. Life feels lighter, not because it has changed, but because you have become more whole. And one who is whole lives with less hurry, less fear, less illusion. This is the beginning of a new existence, based not on ideals, but on presence, designed not to please, but to be authentic. Now, you don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to bend yourself out of shape. You know yourself, you know what you can endure, and you know what you deserve. And above all, you know that everything that hurt you also ensured that you would be reborn. There is no awakening without the shadow, no freedom without traversing one's own pain. And you have walked through it, not perfectly, not without fear, but you walked, and that alone is a victory. Because true growth is not measured in visible successes, but in the number of times you chose to stay true to yourself, even when it would have been easier to lose yourself again. Now is the time to live with presence, to give space to the new without self-sabotage, to love consciously, to decide with calm, to speak with intention. You are purified. You are ready. And the best chapter of your life doesn't start tomorrow. It starts now. With every one of your choices, with every honest step, with every breath that honors who you have become. You have crossed the desert, cried in the dark, stayed silent when you wanted to scream, been alone when everything in you cried out for closeness. But you did not give up. And maybe you haven't even realized it yet, but this has made you into someone that no one can break anymore. Now, life hands the responsibility back to you. What will you do with this new version of yourself? Will you protect it, or will you betray it out of fear of being alone again? Because what comes next will not be easy, but it will be true. And what is true is always worth the journey. Carl Jung said, "What you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." And perhaps now you understand. Your transformed presence is what speaks most powerfully for you. You don't need to announce anything. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to live in truth. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who is currently navigating through chaos. Affirm your own journey in the comments below by writing, "I choose to live my best chapter starting now." Subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any more moments of truth. And remember, you are not reborn to be the same person with a new look. You are reborn to be someone who, this time, will not abandon themselves,